Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the HollingsWorthless podcast. A little hot. This will be for Wednesday, June 24th, Kane.
Jesus Christ.
It's been a minute. It's been 2 weeks. So much to talk about. I'm coming in hot. I just got off a customer service call that was shit. So that always riles me up. Yeah.
They usually are.
But yeah, so I haven't done a podcast in 2 weeks because, sorry, my mom died.
For everybody that was like, where's my podcast episode?
Yeah, Kevin is a ski addict.
Yeah, Jay's mom died. She really got in the way.
That's what I was saying at the thing. I was like, geez, I had to come out here. This is really inconvenient, Mom.
Oh, I mean, I wasn't doing anything really anyway.
Yeah.
But sorry, hold on. God damn it. You put on the do not disturb thing and then it disturbs you anyway.
What happened?
People are fucking.
Oh, wherever you go.
Don't fucking throw your haircut in my face. I don't need it.
Oh yeah, Sean just sent me a thing that bald people are more able to get corona, or more closer to dying if they get corona. I'm really explaining it awful, but
Jesus Christ.
Basically, if you're bald,
doctor.
If you're bald and you get corona, you're fucked.
That's way better. Your first, Sean sent me this thing that if you have bald, then you're susceptible to dying from the getting corona, and if you don't have corona, then you might have hair.
You can drink one.
You shut up.
So let's go back. I'm going to talk about, this will be a hot one, maybe like a hot 30, but we'll fucking hit a lot. I want to talk about protest shit. Because that's gone on. I want to talk about my mom's death, the dying death, and and cancel. All the people getting fucking canceled.
Get canceled.
Right. Yeah. So my mom died. All right, so cancel culture. No.
Actually, she got canceled first.
Yeah, God canceled her. Jesus Christ, Kane. Why would you say that? Everybody write your letters. Kane just said a boo-boo.
Was she bald?
No, she didn't get corona. Dude, that was like what was crazy. So, all right, here, I'll get into it. So, backstory on my mom, she's 84. She was. So she was like, we got to make jokes, dude. You know that. She was 84. She was in top physical shape. She
was. Oh my God.
She what?
I said, sure she was.
I mean, she's not now. So she had a physical 6 months ago, and they said that it was like she was 40 years old. She had the heart of a 40-year-old and this and that. At 65, she learned to play tennis, and she still, till 84, she was playing tennis. She was the coach of the pickleball team at her local rec center. So back in November, she went to China with one of my grandkids, one of my nieces, her grandkids, see the Great Wall of China. January, she was in Tennessee visiting one. So March, she started getting sick, went into the hospital. They checked her for corona, no corona, but she had pneumonia. Have I told you all this shit, Kane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you've talked about it on Instagram, and then also when we talk on the phone.
Okay, so I'll make it quick then for the podcast. So she went in, didn't have corona, did have pneumonia, started getting better. They sent her home with oxygen. Within the week, she started getting bad again, lost 15 pounds, sent her back to the hospital. Over the course of 3 or 4 weeks in the hospital, she was having mini strokes. She had blood clots. So they put her on medicine. They found from one test, they found out she had something that is usually in cadavers of people that had cancer. My mom had cancer back in the day, but breast cancer beat it. And now, so they were doing blood work and they found cancer in her blood. So they couldn't pinpoint it, but they were and I'm flying through this, obviously. They were like, okay, we think the cancer's all over her body. We could you have a joke. I can see you smirking.
I'm watching.
I see you fucking smirking.
I'm watching, and then not enjoying. I'm watching.
Oh, yeah, you sound like you and look like you really hate this as you laugh and smile. Great. So they were like, we can give her chemo, but that probably won't do much and it'd be bad. So my mom was like, fuck that, I want to go home. So my sister, Veronica, who has been a stud in all of this, like she's handled, well, she's the executor of the state, or not the estate. So she's like, God, she's done so much in this. So anyway, she was like, she hit me up and was like, Mom's getting bad. You probably should come up here. And this was like on maybe a Friday or Saturday. And so I was like, okay, I think I had something scheduled or I was looking at something. Long story short, I was like, okay, I'll be there Thursday. I'm coming up. Then she called me the next day and she's like, you probably want to hurry it up. Sunday, she was like, you need to get here ASAP because every day she's getting worse. So I was like, all right. So I left on a Monday, a 9.5-hour drive, got in at like 5:30, went straight up, and I came in hot. I was cracking jokes. She was lucid, probably 90 to 95% there. There was only like 1 or 2 parts. She looked up at the fan and she was like, who is that? And we were like, what the fuck are you talking about? But other than that, she was responding. We were back and forth. She was laughing, asking me about my new jokes, shit like that, you know? Maybe that's what killed her. There you go. I said it for you. So that Monday night, she was overall like really good. I mean, she was in pain and she just laid in the bed, but as far as mentally, she was there. Tuesday comes and she wakes up in the morning and she was saying for about a minute, she was going, Howard. And we were like, who's Howard? Well, that was my grandfather, her dad. That was his middle name. And was it you or somebody told me something that tripped me out? They say the name you're calling out that's who is greeting you.
Oh no, that wasn't me. But you
on the other side.
Yeah.
So she did that like when she first kind of was waking up, did that for like a minute or two, and then just 12 hours of it's fucking yeah, it was bad. And
Jesus.
Didn't say anything the rest of the day except for I played Danny Boy. We were playing music for her and I played Danny Boy and she just goes, oh, Danny Boy, and then went back to the weird breathing. And then at 10:30 she passed in the bedroom. So it was me, my mom's laying on the bed, I'm holding her hand, and my sister Veronica and my niece Sammy are there. And we're the only ones in the room. People are, you know, like it's almost like we're doing shifts, like hours at a time. I think Valerie was out smoking, my other sister and other people are downstairs. So for 10 or 12 hours, you're hearing this breathing, this rhythmic breathing. And so it stops and I'm holding her hand, it stops and we all kind of look at her. Now, you know, it's so fucked, but I mean, comics. So the whole time her right eye was closed and this left eye was just open, kind of like, you know, like this, right? Mm-hmm. The whole time. So she was like, so when she stops breathing, we look over and this fucking eye that was open just goes like this, rolls in the back of her head. Dude, I froze. I was just kind of like, but my sister and my niece Sammy both just, they look at her and as it happens, they just go, oh my God. So, and I just kind of was like, fuck. So immediately we yelled to everybody. We're like, get the fuck out there. She's fucking, it's happening. Like, you know, I mean, and all during the day, like, you know, everybody's saying different things like, you know, it's okay. You can let go and we love you and all that stuff. Right. So we yelled to everybody. Everybody comes up immediately. And then she took, I think, like 2 more breaths, but it was really delayed. It was like a breath and then almost like 45 seconds to a minute before she breathed again, breathed again. And then she was gone. And then, so we go downstairs and it's crazy. We talked a little bit about it, Kane and I, where it's like, oh, you thought you were stressed from the most stressful thing in your life. Now that person passes, now you have a million things to do as quickly as possible. It's not even like, oh, you have a lot to do. You have a lot to do in like 4 days. So yeah. we called the mortuary people. They came and got her body within 2 hours. Denise, my mom's friend that was there. So my mom had like blood was like dried here from her lip had been chapped for the last few days, and so it was just kind of blood was dried here. Well, Denise, when my mom passed, Denise then went up and like cleaned her up and like got her presentable for the mortuary people. So yeah, I was like, what the fuck? And so Denise was like, you guys want to come up and see? And I was like, But Veronica did. I keep saying my granddaughters. It's fucking my mom's granddaughters. My nieces, they went up there, and then Veronica was like, you should come up and see her. So I go up, and Denise had like cleaned her face off and everything. And she was like this with like flowers in her hand and just pale white. Yeah. Thanks for making that noise about my mom.
I'm doing an impression.
It's so fucked. It's so fucked. And so, and by the way, if you're listening to this and this is the first you've heard of this, if you go on my Instagram, I documented this whole thing from beginning to end. And there was a day that I said in one of the videos, you know, there's me breaking down and everything. I did it for a couple reasons. One, I thought I should document it for myself, but also I've experienced death in the family, like of my grandparents and my grandmother and my aunt, but all of that stuff, I wasn't this close to it in the sense of all the stuff that's entailed after somebody dies. Like you know, I love my grandparents more than anybody, but my dad and my uncle kind of handled all of that, you know. This, even though Veronica has handled majority of it, like this, I was right close and knew everything that was going on. And so that was another reason why I did the videos for anybody else that has never gone through this. And, you know, maybe down the road, you know, they'll remember and this and that. But one of the updates I posted, I said, hey, at some point I'm going to make jokes. So you guys got to know that as a comic, that's how I work through shit. And there's going to be jokes. And then the one day I posted the jokes, you know, and you know, I guess the reviews were good. But talking to Kane and Sean, I told them, and I want to do this. I'm going to do like a 30-minute special just on jokes about my mom's passing. Cut it out or get it done and put it out there. So that's, I'm not doing a lot of the jokes or telling the funny things or weird things that happen. You want to see those, you can go look at my Instagram, Big Irish J on Instagram, and go back, you know, the last 2 weeks and you'll see them. So that's my mom's dead.
That's my mom's dead.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And we're out like she is. All right. Next, the protest, the Black Lives Matter. So I got hit up the other day. This couple that lives in New Orleans, they saw me when I came with Kev out there, and they wanted to interview me for what is a white content creator or a white comic, how does he navigate during all this? And I mentioned you too, Kane. I said that, like, you know, there's so much shit that goes through our head. You're like, I don't have any problem with the stuff I'm posting regarding Black Lives Matter. Like in my head, I never question any of that shit. I'm like, this is right. This is what it should be. I question, and I'm wondering if you go through the same thing. I question, like, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things as far as like, you know, where I'm like, you know, I have these links here on my website. Are those the right ones? You know, or should there be more? Should there be something different? I question when I do post something funny, you know, sometimes I'm like, God, and people are going to be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? We got this other shit going. And so I was talking to them about that, about all the shit that goes through my head. But I've had black people hit me up that have thanked me for posting funny shit still. And then, you know, you lose followers too, which is fine.
I'm happy to lose the followers. Like, you should be happy that you're losing people who are like, look, I just don't want it. And they're part of the conversation of the problem anyway. Like the big conversation about whites who don't want to talk about it. You're the reason it continues on, because you're like, no. Well, yeah, you know, and they have all these excuses that they're like, look, well, I'm not racist. And they're like, yeah, well, that's not enough anymore. Yeah. Like, that was never enough in the first place, you know, and that it's time to read. It's time to listen. It's time to talk. You can't shy away from it anymore.
Yeah. I posted, I think you saw that the lady that was doing the poem or spoken word on white privilege.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a few white people like, this is ridiculous. Or one guy was like, oh, I can't wait to get my white privilege or something. He's like, I don't even understand. And then he did the fucking my friend is black. He was like, he's like, I'm actually going to play golf with my black friend and his son here in a little bit. And then to which I responded, I was like, it's funny you mentioned golf with the fact that, you know, there's been plenty of times where black people weren't allowed to join these country clubs or women. And then he said, you know, like, well, I couldn't even afford those country clubs. I was like, yeah, but you have that option. The only thing holding you back is money, not the color of your skin. And then, you know, it's funny, you know, Kev and I do the Ask a show, and I've learned shit from the Ask a show in the sense where this guy was saying, because I brought up the statistic of black men are sentenced to like twice the time for the same crimes that white men are. And then the guy's response was, well, what about women? They get even less, you know, less time. Is there female privilege? To which I was like, oh yeah, there's all kinds of different privilege. And then I mentioned one thing I learned from doing ASCA is there's able body privilege, which you don't even think about. And Kevin and I didn't even think about. We had a guest on that's in the not the wheelchair. It's not the only one.
The one wheelchair. They all share it.
Fuck. Oh God. Hey, I gotta go to the store today. Sorry, man. It's checked out. Oh, fuck.
Chad.
Yeah.
Chad. Oh, Chad's crawling. Oh no.
Oh man.
Sorry.
That'll be perfect for going into cancel culture.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, but you know, we had a guest that's in a wheelchair, and we just were like, okay, you're scheduled. We'll see you when you get here. And then when she gets there, we're just like, all right, come on in. And she's like, dummies. There's stairs.
Exactly.
And you don't even think about it. And she told us, she was like, that's able-bodied privilege. And I was like, oh shit. It's something you don't even think about. And I was like, okay, that makes sense.
The thing that I've reflected on as far as white privilege is concerned, and I was telling you about this on the phone, was like, I think a lot of, people who have a lot of money, they want to deny it anyway. Like the rich whites, the 1%, they'll want to deny because maybe in their heads, I don't know about the 1%, but I would guess that maybe they're like, well, I provide opportunities because of what I have, but you're still a white man with a lot of money. And the guys who want to really buck against white privilege are the ones that don't really, in their minds, they don't benefit from it. They're not the rich white 1%.
Right.
And being a broke white kid, like growing up broke and white, and also in a household where I got the shit kicked out of me all the time. I was talking to you about this. Those white guys, because I'm a part of those white guys, where you're like, I didn't benefit at all. Like I got my ass kicked and I got torn to shreds at home. And so like I like, and also like I'm struggling too, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that they don't seem to realize, and the thing that like really caught my attention is like, well, when my household was too dangerous to be in, I could just go outside. I could just go walk around in the joys of outside, put my hoodie over my head, walk around the middle of the night. Hello, officer. Just getting away from my abusive father.
Okay, carry on.
go right ahead. No one had to check my ID. No one stopped me in the middle of the street. You know, so then it made me think about those black kids who grew up in abusive households, and they didn't have the option to go outside. I mean, they could go outside, but it's a roll of the dice. It's a fucking gamble.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Like Kev didn't make a big deal about it. I don't think anybody else had, but it was just like, I still think about it. I told you about it. Kev on stage, our buddy, he does like a morning walk, and he'll talk in his phone and talk to his fans. And he was just talking to him. He's like, hey, what's up, guys? I got the new hoodies. He's like, check it out. He shows it, and then he puts the hood up. He's like, blah, blah, blah. And then he literally has a moment where as he's talking, he goes like, oh, wait, can't do that. And I'm like, the fact that, and people, somebody could try and dismiss as like, oh, nothing's going to happen. It's just the fact that that's even a thought that has to come into his head. Where with me and you, I would never be like, oh, that's something I got to worry about.
No.
You know?
Well, yeah, of course, because we're not followed and attacked. You know, no one's considering us criminals.
Yeah.
And it's such an astonishing thing that you don't, being not racist. You know, you walk around not racist, and you're just like, yeah, I don't think about it, but also like, yeah, you get to benefit from it. You know, I told the story last episode about the cop pulling the gun on me, but when he realized that I didn't have a weapon and he saw my white face, he's like, "Here's your ticket, young man. All right, I'll have a good day. Drive a little safer."
Scruffs your hair a little, well, your forehead.
Then he gets COVID.
And then he meets my mom. Oh God, I just took it too far. Yeah, I posted a thing. There's two new God, I can't remember the last names. Elijah. Well, there was a kid, I think in November. He was walking home. He was wearing a ski mask because he has, I forget what it might have been anemia, but he gets cold. And he was somewhere where he wears this full ski mask. On his way home, had no weapons. Cops start fucking with him. A scuffle happens. Put him in a chokehold until he's unconscious. Unconscious. Paramedics come and they give him ketamine, cardiac arrest, and dies. So this guy with no weapon, good kid, fucking is now dead. And I posted that, and they're reopening that case. And about the Latino kid that I think it was, or no, the Elijah was 23. This Latino kid was 18. He was hired to watch this place during all the looting and shit. And cops pulled up. They say that they saw that he had a weapon, and they came up, guns drawn, and he ran. And he ended up getting shot and killed. But they haven't come out with anything as far as, they weren't wearing body cams. They had no body cams. And so I posted all this, and I was like, same, new day, same story. And some lady got on me. She was like, you should use your platform not to spread hate and, or hating on cops and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, let me give you a little backstory on me. And I gave all the fucking members of my family that are cops. I go, I don't hate cops. I hate, cops I hate people, innocent, unarmed people dying, innocent people dying. I hate cops not following their training, not getting the proper training, or just ignoring their training, and it's just like, dude, the other thing too, and I think we've talked about this, is it's like, all this shit is like so draining, like having, like every day there's a new case. It's depressing. It weighs on you, posting about it, trying to be woke, which I hate that word woke, but trying to be woke, trying to do everything right. And then you think about it and you're like, yeah, imagine having to live with that your whole life.
Every day.
Sorry, white guys. You guys a little heavy on you. You
see that white lady cop that didn't want to get her McDonald's order?
Yes.
And it's like, hey, don't eat at McDonald's. How about in general, just don't eat at McDonald's? One, it's a huge corporation. Two, that owns part of the country, and is fucking part of like, it's the thing that controls all of us. And then two, you've been a cop for what, 17 years, and for the last 2 weeks you're being fucked with. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I just want this to stop. All right, well then change some shit then. Why don't you retire? Why don't you put your badge down? Or instead, why don't you try and change the system within while having your badge on? You didn't get your hash browns? Boo fucking who? Go to Burger King. Jesus Christ.
Get the little round ones.
Yeah, those are good.
Full circle.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, dude, that's like my mom's friend. I won't say her name because I don't know, just whatever. She's a Republican, a very proud Republican, a vocal Republican. Oh. And my niece Ashley is half black, right? So I was staying downstairs, and I walked upstairs, and Denise, Trump supporter, the whole works, was talking to and at my niece about Black Lives Matter. And I was like, here we go.
No,
and I just went to the kitchen. I'm like trying to make my food, and Ashley's very smart and can hold her own against anybody. And she's, when I say my niece, she's not like 12, she's 30 something. and very smart and can hold her own against anybody in a debate. And so I was kind of just trying to make my food, bite my tongue. And then I heard her talking about all lives matter, not Ashley, my mom's friend, all lives matter, all that. So I kind of baited her. I was like, hey, I almost said her name. Hey, my mom's friend. I go, hey, did you know, mom had cancer? And she's like, yeah. I was like, she beat breast cancer. She's like, yeah. I go, she's a big supporter of like, breast cancer awareness. She's like, yeah. I was like, you support breast cancer awareness? She's like, yeah. I go, okay, cool. So when people are talking about that, do you go, hey, all cancers matter? Didn't have much to say on that. Then she wanted us to watch. She's also a teacher. FYI, she's a teacher.
Cool.
Dude, she wanted us to watch a documentary about One Child Nation, about in China how you could only have one kid and like all the shit that the country does if you have more than one kid. And before we watched it, she was like, it's just crazy what the Chinese government does to the people there. I go, oh, it sounds like what the U.S. government did to black people during the Tuskegee experiment. And she was like, oh, what's that? I go, you don't know what the Tuskegee experiment is? She goes, no. I go, oh, when they gave black men for 40 years, they let black men, or not let them, they gave them syphilis. And her response to that was, oh, were they prisoners? Like that would make it okay.
Christ, they're still people.
Dude, and then I go, Lord. I was like, no, weren't prisoners. And then she goes, did they volunteer? I was like, oh no, they were told that they were getting health care and then they were given syphilis. And even after there was a cure, nope, never told. Oh, dude. So it was aggravating, but yeah. So let me see. I want to keep this tight. I wanted to talk about the everybody's getting canceled. Comics are getting canceled.
Canceled comics.
Let me see. There's been canceled. Joey Diaz. I just watched Joey Diaz responded to all that. He was like,
I don't know about the Diaz thing.
He was on Joe Rogan talking about back in the day. He used to have chicks blow him for stage time. I'm laughing because I'm not laughing because that's funny. I'm laughing because in the video when he says it, he's on Rogan's podcast, and in the video when he says it, everybody kind of laughs at it. And so everybody now, like Diaz, they're trying to cancel Diaz, trying to cancel Rogan for laughing at it. And I just heard Diaz today, and he talked about, he addressed it. And he's like, look, this was in 97. You guys don't know what the Comedy Store is like that. You don't know what comedy was like that. And he goes, I put this out here as well as all my other, he goes, I've talked about how I kidnap people. I've talked about how I'm a felon. I've talked about all this. And, you know, because this is the thing right now, people want to come at me. He's like, I've grown since then. You know, you're talking about, 25 years ago. And I've grown since then. I've admitted to these. I've become a better person. I've become the man that my mother wanted me to be. He's like, so he basically was just like, go fuck yourself. And you know about Dalia. Yeah. And I haven't done a whole bunch of research into that. I mean, I think I saw a couple where there were chicks. That's great. There were women, female. I mean, girls. Would they be called girls at 16?
Yeah.
What if they don't identify as that?
Then they're not.
Then they're trying to fucking turn it on to you.
Yeah.
Whoa, Kane.
Whoa, Kane.
They're girls.
What do you know? Who do you know?
Yeah. But I'm pretty confident I saw that there were some females that were like 16 that he was asking for nudes, whether he knew they were 16 or not. I got to do more research on it because there's so much that, you can jump to, because some of them are like 20 and older that basically just, for whatever reason, they, can you see me still or no?
Yeah,
okay.
I can see.
My poker game started and I have to stop the sounds for one. Little sound effects. No. Okay. And let me sit out for a second. And now let me find you.
Burp.
Sorry.
Boop.
All right. Boop. But I mean, there has been some, and I'm not saying this is the Dalia situation or not, because I don't know yet. I got to research it more or find out more. But I like not Joel McHale, fucking Chris Hardwick. People jumped on that pretty quick. He lost his company, but now he's back. Aziz Ansari, same shit with that. I mean, it's like, you know, dude, I saw Chris D'Elia got dropped by CAA, you know?
Damn.
And yeah, I'm not friends with Chris. I don't know him like
No.
one way or another, but it's nuts. Like watching, did you see Callan and Schwab talking about it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, Schwab was crying. Dude, he was like, I'm mad. He goes, I can't believe it. I'm angry at Chris. I'm angry, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And they basically, this thing's still making noisy piece of shit. They're upset about it. And so you're like, all right. Brian was saying, I've never seen him talking about underage. I've never seen him with underage. But yeah, it sounds like I haven't heard anybody that's just like, no, this is false. I mean, they're just saying like, I haven't seen it, this and that. But my whole point of bringing this up or whatever is like, you know me, and I've talked about it on the podcast, I won't date comics. I've always said, like, for me to date a comic, she would have to be very blatant about she wants us to date.
Right.
Just because anything could be misconstrued, it could be misinterpreted.
What was that?
I don't know. But you have dated a comic. You were engaged, married, etc. That's what I'm curious is, how did you broach that when you guys first started dating? Or did you ever even have any thoughts of like, I got to be careful how I approach this because I don't want anything misconstrued?
No, I never I was never attracted to any other female comics that we worked with, especially in Seattle. Not that they weren't
shot at the female comics.
Nice. But not that they weren't attractive or anything, but they just like, for me, they're just my colleagues. They're my coworkers, and
as it should be.
Right. But like with, so I just, and I've never been someone to slide into DMs or randomly like go after somebody online and like say shit that, you know, talking with some of my female friends of late, after all this stuff, they're like, yeah, this is how it is. Guys, especially guys in power who have been doing it a lot, will just say fuck it. You have no previous idea that there's any kind of sexual tension between you two. It's really usually one-sided, and then they'll just send a message like, my dick is hard looking at your Instagram, and you're just and they're like, what the fuck? We just did the store. Like, you just helped me do the store. Is that why you helped me do the store? Is because of this reason? And but with Kelsey, there was a mutual, you know, like, she complimented me. She's like, she told me like
things. Your hair.
She did like my hair at the time.
She's like, it's lucky. It's like a horseshoe.
You know what I like most about your hair is how, like, in the front it's done, but in the back it's really like trying hard. But
your back of your head's a go-getter. The front is a quitter.
The front wants nothing to do with your face. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I've always picked up on a vibe. I think it's also with like people who you just click with anyway, like friends. It's like, just because we're comics doesn't mean we're going to be friends. You know what I mean? How often are you on a show with a guy and like he might crush on stage, and then when he gets off, he's just a fucking douchebag.
Is that how you feel about me?
Yeah, this is why we.
But let's go back to the crushing part.
But you like, you know, and so like, it's a vibe. It's like, it's body language, and it's like when you talk to somebody, you're like, oh shit, I get them, they get me, and like there's a difference. So like with some of the women comics that I've befriended, it's like that's where I already had them. Like they were already there.
Had them. Whoa. Nice choice.
Very good, Jay. They friend zoned me, and I friend zoned them, because that's the dynamic we want.
Because you didn't find them attractive.
Yes.
And then you found one you did, and you were like, I'm going after her.
Yeah, and then we were married for 8 years,
Yeah.
and then he decided to cancel me.
Yeah. Your marriage is with my mom.
Oh my God, damn.
Uh,
My marriage is going, Howard.
I mean, maybe Kelsey is now. Who knows?
Oh yeah, by the way, everybody, me and Kelsey broke up.
Yeah. And you know what? We're not going to say anything more than that, just so people be like, "Oh, what the fuck?
What happened?"
The next podcast. We'll talk about the next one.
We'll talk another event.
Yeah, we will. We'll talk about it on the next one. But yeah, there was a female comic that it's crazy that some comics, and it's probably newer comics, but think like almost like that sexual harassment is like just the norm. I know a male comic. I won't say his name. This female comic. I don't know who approached too about like tagging up jokes, writing together, and so they wrote together and they got done. And the female comic volunteered. I don't know the exact verbiage, but it was something to the effect of like, so do I blow you now? And he was like, what? And he was like, is that like, is that what we do now? And he was like, no. And the only reason I know that this is how the story went, so to speak, isn't because I just heard it from him, but his roommate also had overheard all of this and was kind of like, yeah, what the fuck? And he was like, no, we're just writing. What are you talking about? And she goes, oh, I thought that was like part of the thing. And he was like, no, what the fuck?
Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find her as a writer part.
I was sitting at Tacoma Comedy Club, and there's one female comic who was she dated a lot of she had like 3 male comic boyfriends like over like the span of like a year. And like we're sitting there, and Kelsey and I had like kind of just announced that like we might be open, we might have an open relationship. And then while we're sitting in that back, remember that back booth we always used to sit at?
Oh yeah.
So I'm back there, then she sits next, and we start next to me, and then we start talking, and then she gets like closer and closer. And next thing I know, she's like rubbing her knee against my knee. And then like, then she puts her elbow on my shoulder, and and then a waiter comes over and goes, hey guys, you guys got to keep it down. So then she like, oh, that's fine, and starts whispering little things in my ear, and I'm like, all right, no, this isn't for me. Like, I don't know if you're collecting comics or what you're doing, but I don't feel that way about you. And even though my relationship is open, it's like, I don't trust this. Like, I don't like you. Maybe you are attracted to me, but I'm not. And like, I'm a guy and I'm visual but like being flirted with is nice. But like when it's leading to something that I can like sense, my sense of survival and like community too. Like I just like, we could just be comics together.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to fuck. And that and like,
that's the talk that we had when we met.
Exactly, but I was blowing you at the time.
Yeah, but I mean, I did tag your jokes up.
That's true. And I was like, it was me. It was the girl.
You're like, oh, good tags. Fuck. Oh.
But like so many dudes. This is the thing. Other than and I know why some comics will feel that way, because guys have that in their fucking bones where they're like, oh, a girl's being nice to me. She wants my dick. And it's like, she's just being nice, bro.
Yeah.
She's just fucking looking for a friend.
That's why I'm saying, I'm like, if anybody if a male comic was asking my advice on, hey, I like a girl, or I'm interested in a comic or this or that, I would tell, I mean, it's the same thing as like, if you work in corporate America, don't shit where you eat,
Yeah.
Don't shit on her when you're eating her pussy. Oh, fuck. I need to.
But that would mean you're either 69ing,
yeah,
or your pants are off and you're squatting with your hand over your ass, and then while you're eating your pussy, you shit in your own hand.
Fucking throw it.
Throw it like a monkey.
Yeah. No, but I would tell any comic that like, oh, I'm interested, guy or girl, and they're interested in somebody, I would say, I would just, I mean, I wouldn't do anything on it. I would just basically be like, well, I admire her from afar. I mean, it's not like I'll be rude to her or anything, but I would never cross that line. She would have to totally make the first move. So in that sense, I'm like the opposite of how I am in real life, where I have no problem approaching any girl to ask her out or whatever. I don't have any fear of that. But if it's a colleague, I'm like, nope, nope.
Yeah, dude, fucking, like, and also the holier than thou guys that know what they're doing is wrong.
Oh,
like they know the messages they're sending are wrong, which is why when it comes out, it's way more damaging. Like, did you hear about that Christian comic?
Oh yeah.
John, whatsoever.
I forget his last name. I know who you're talking about though.
Yeah, that dude, clean Christian, about to have a Netflix special come out before COVID hit. And this dude, there is that power dynamic, that idea of like, all right, well, yeah, I mean, it worked once before. I rolled the dice this time and said, hey, yeah, you can come meet me at the end of the show, but you gotta suck my dick. And this is a God-fearing man. This is a marriage, and he, no sex before marriage and all this stuff, and he still is like, he still is taking advantage of his flock, essentially, his fucking audience. And you're like, why would you do that?
I think you mispronounced that name or that word.
What was I supposed? What?
Sounds like flock.
Does it rhyme with flock?
Oh yeah.
Does it start with a C?
Maybe.
But like, you got into this business because you wanted to be funny. Like, I always think of the Patrice O'Neill quote: I got into comedy because I was a funny kid. But then comedy, the business end of comedy corrupts the actual, and it's the Walter White test. The Walter White test. Was it the cancer that made Walter, God damn you, decline? Was it
who the fuck's calling you?
I don't know, but I put it on Do Not Disturb. Was it the cancer that made Walter White Heisenberg? Or was he Heisenberg the whole time? And so it's like, your real personality is in there. So you're a puss hound, but you're also a God-fearing man, and you don't have any power, and you think to yourself, oh, I'm a good person. Then you get some power and you realize, like, oh, I'm actually a piece of shit.
Right.
I can fucking do whatever I want. And then one day Twitter says, no, you can't. And and people are upset about the Me Too movement, but you got to understand that as like some of the
Somebody calling you again?
Yes, god damn it.
What are they calling you on your computer?
Yeah, it like goes to my computer, and I don't know how to detach the two.
You fucking idiot.
But like, as upset as you could be at the Me Too movement that happened on Twitter, it's like, the reason that it exists is because they tried to go through the proper channels. They tried to go through and take these guys down legally, and no one would listen to them. And that's why it took off the way it did. So you can be upset as all you want, and why there's like a people's court out there trying to cancel people, but people who've been fucked over for years now finally have a voice.
Right.
And of course there's going to be opportunists who are going to try and capitalize on some shit, but for the most part, it's trying to weed out all the dead grass.
Dead grass?
I don't know. I'm out of analogies. I need more coffee.
Well, here, let's wrap it. Before we wrap it, I want to give a shout out and a plug. Our buddy, Alfred Carcieri. Carcieri. He has a new album out called Hardcore Softy. You can go to hardcoresofty.com, and it's his debut album, and he's a buddy of ours from, lives in Tacoma now, from New England, and his new album's out, and we love him. So go get his album and give it a nice review.
Yeah, good job for Alfred, man. Congratulations, buddy. That's awesome.
Do you remember? I remember the first time I met him was at Tacoma Comedy Club, and He was outside Tacoma Comedy Club. Everybody was, and like I was like, "Who's this fucking?"
He's loud.
Loud fuck.
Yeah, he is loud and
It's like, he
obnoxious.
seems like a real asshole. I'm probably gonna be friends with him.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. He gets up there with his Maine accent.
Yeah. Where'd
And
you
he's
meet him? Or do you remember where you met him?
I think I met him at Local 907 where Dylan got beat up.
Ah.
And yeah, and he was like, "Hey, so I heard about you through Jay. I'm friends with Jay." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome." He's like, "Yeah, man. Yeah, it's great to meet you." And then like as the night goes on, he's like, "Here's a bunch of tags." Like, do I suck your dick now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the only reason I gave him to me. What are you batting for the Yankees? That's my favorite fucking insult.
Dude, when we went to Boston together, the three of us, that was a blast. We did when we did Nick's Comedy Stop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was so fucking great. Dude, I want to, and we'll talk about this off. I want to take a trip somewhere, dude. Once all this shit is done, you know?
Yeah, me too.
What do you want to plug? You got something to plug?
Well, also, Carcieri has 2 shows that you can find on YouTube. One of them's a cooking show that he does. Follow him on I think it's Alfred Comic on Instagram.
Yeah, his last name is Carcieri. Carcieri. Carcieri.
Yeah, and his podcast, I think it's called Killing Time or something like that. And so check out all the things that Alfred does. I didn't know Alfred was gonna get a plug today, but let's say this is the special Alfred episode. You know, like it should be for your mom, and we should be plugging all of the nice things your mom did for you over the time. But you know what? Fuck that, Alfred.
I kind of like it. God, I was gonna name the podcast just like Rip, but now I almost want to do it just because it's such us to just not even reference it or anything. Oh man,
I have so many dad stories that I never got to. Maybe we'll talk about it on a future episode. But like that you went through with your mom, all that stuff was like triggering for me. Where
shit.
I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this, that, and the other thing when he was in the hospital. Anyway, you can follow me at Kane Holloway on Instagram. You can listen to my advice show, Don't Take Bullshit from Fuckers, that I do with Craig Barrett. And yeah, that's I got an album out, but it's called Can't See Straight. It's named after my dad, so check out that too.
Aww.
And that's it.
Oh, isn't that fucking tender?
It's not tender at all.
And I'm at Big Irish J on everything. What do I got coming up? Whoa, fuck! You know, this is going to be another teaser. We're going to we're dropping lots of teasers that you got to come back to the next one if you want to hear it. Kane and I are moving to Vegas. We're gonna get a place in Vegas. We're gonna have a fucking media room to do a bunch of shit. God, right now are you just like, holy shit? Tell me more. Well, tune in next week for the fucking
yeah.
And I'm at Big Irish J, and I think that's it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.